Welcome everybody to the first episode of the 100 Characters Drawing Design Challenge Thing video series, whatever. Here we are. This is going to be an interesting trek, but it's one I'm actually really excited to get started on. That being said though, you're gonna have to forgive me for this first episode, as I was half asleep when I came up with the idea for this character, meaning I had to drag myself out of bed and write it down in my sketchbook to make sure I didn't forget it. Now, when I woke up in the morning, could I have reevaluated and see if it really was a good idea that sleep-deprived me thought of? Yes. Did I do that? No. I set my mind to it, so I did it. But before I even started the piece, I actually did something I've never done before when drawing, at least as far as I can remember. Before I even started on the piece, I went into a program called Millinote and made a mood board with various pictures of Frankenstein and surgeon attire that I can pull reference from. And I really want to get into the habit of doing that, at least for this series, because I think it could really help me understand how character design works. And going forward with this idea, the one thing I wanted to steer clear of was straight up just using the movie depiction of Frankenstein with the square head, green skin, all that kind of stuff. And I wanted to take inspiration from the book description of the character. What I really ended up doing though in the final product was taking both the book and movie descriptions of Frankenstein and, well, Frankensteining them together. Go figure. And more or less, it worked out pretty well. It got that Frankenstein feel across without being Frankenstein, except it was Frankenstein. But then it was... Anyway, I think this is one of my best pieces in terms of anatomy. Like in the Nightmare Critters as Power Rangers episode, I was experimenting with different character types here, aiming for a larger and broader body type. Which, yes, leans more to the movie side of things, but I don't know, it just felt fitting, and I really wanted to experiment with different body types, so I went with it. And we're all just gonna have to live with that decision. And while I think the proportions and the anatomy overall are good, I feel like the arms are just kind of missing a little bit of detail. Recently, I've been not struggling per se, but I've been conflicted with my art style. I've mentioned before that my art style is not my favorite compared to everyone else's, like Dempsey's, Nerds, Knight, Fantasy Creed, Drawing with Mr. S, and even a lot of you viewing this video right now. I've seen a lot of the artwork you all put out there, and all your unique styles are truly amazing. And I'd be lying if I said I wasn't jealous. But when it comes to my style, looking at my pieces, it always seems like it's sitting firmly in the middle of being a cartoony style and a painterly style, for lack of a better words. And it's like the art, which means it's on me, can't decide which direction it wants to go. The biggest area I really want to fix and become more comfortable with is my rendering stage. I'm still trying to figure out where I want my style of rendering to fall between cell shading and the painterly, more airbrush style of things. So I hope as this series progresses, that's something I can work on and hone to a place that I really like. Hopefully sooner rather than later. But back to the drawing. When it came to the hair, I was a little bit on the fence about what I wanted to do with it. I wanted it to be shown in the piece, so I opted to leave out the little surgical headpiece. Not sure what the name of it is though, but what surgeons wear to keep their hair out of the operation. I then debated whether I wanted to have it tied up in a ponytail, or tied back, and make it a little more accurate, because I do believe you can't have loose hair while operating. But I didn't really like how it looked, so I opted to just leave it down, which I'm pretty sure would get him fired from his job, among other reasons. Hey, I never said FrankenSurgeon was a good surgeon, and judging by the facial expression I gave him, I thinking that's going to be part of the canon. For the story of FrankenSurgeon, I came up with something along the lines of like FrankenSurgeon really looked up to his creator and wanted to follow in his footsteps regarding the biological science of things. Unfortunately, he was a very anxious person when it came to high pressure situations, which, as you could imagine, being a surgeon probably entails quite a bit of high pressure situations. And he would often let his artificially wired nerves get to him. To get past this, FrankenSurgeon would operate on himself as a way to study to get his medical license, a feat that would prove to be ineffective as his biology worked in a much different way from the humans that he would be operating on. Now, as I've mentioned, I'm really trying to find a new rendering process that works for me. I'm liking this new cell shading process that I've recently started, but I think using the color fill layers in Photoshop is really limiting me in what I can do. So to combat this, I did try to shade the hair using just regular plain blank layers and adding on top of them as needed. And I do really like it, especially where I use the light blue as the highlights instead of like a gray or a white. However, moving on to other parts of the piece, I got really overwhelmed with how I was going to tackle this new blank layer kind of rendering, and so I leaned back on the multiply and overlay layers for shadowing and highlights. At some point, I really need to force myself to just not use them at all for an entire piece. Which, spoilers, depending on when this video comes out, I did just finish a piece recently where I tried just that, and I'm pretty happy with the result. We'll see how it works going forward as I hone it. But it is really weird that I rely so much on the multiply and overlay layers, because when I'm designing boss level thumbnails, I don't use them for the most part. I just go with a blank layer, color pick the color, drop it down a little bit in terms of lightness, and use that as the shadows. And I really want to practice that in these bigger pieces. All that being said though, I did do something different this time that I haven't done before, in which I've changed the color of the shadow and highlight layers depending on which color I was working on. So instead of using just the same shade of blue to shade the entire piece as I would normally do, I mixed it up a little bit, opting for a more tealish color for shading when I'm working on the grafted skin, and a more turquoise blue for all the scrubs. While it may seem like I just listed pretty much the same colors, I don't really know if that was the right call. I don't know if doing something like that made the piece seem more disjointed and had all the parts kind of sticking out from each other. I'm gonna say it didn't hurt the piece that much, but let me know what you think in the comments about this color changing shading thing that I tried out. Now, I feel at some point I should probably mention the variety of tools that are embedded into the character's flesh. While I was in the sketching phase, I thought it'd be really funny if FrankenSurgeon kept all his tools on him at all times, literally, which would lead to another reason why you would want literally anyone else to operate on you, because those tools are definitely not clean. As a first episode, I'm really happy with the result, but going forward, I really want to refine my drawing process into a way that is unique and comfortable to me. Now, if you all want to be part of this challenge alongside with me, then feel free to go ahead and draw your own version of FrankenSurgeon and post it on either Instagram or Twitter or X using the hashtag KP100OCs. And you can tag me, my profile's in the description below. Or you can send your art in the Discord channel, which I've hopefully set up before this video goes out. And if you want, feel free to leave suggestions in the comments below about what other words Character 2 can be based off of. It could be ideas, sonas, monsters, topics, just random words, just anything. But if you want to know what types of words would probably work best for a challenge like this, then I highly recommend you check out Caitlin McKagey's 100 Dragons Drawing Challenge, which is what inspired this? I'll leave a link in the description below. But that's all I've got for you today. My name is KyngPin Creations, and I will see you in either the next video or the next addition to this series. Take care, everyone.